Welcome to another show, another week of Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Pleased to have you joining us. Got another great show lined up for you this week, and I know you'll think so after hearing what I've got set up for you. Austin Martin, Iowa Hawkeye catcher, going to join us here in just a little bit. Heller ball is for real. The Hawks playing well again this spring. Can't wait to catch up with starting catcher Austin Martin. And then we'll close out the show as we usually do with our Hawkeye insider, David Eickholt. Oh, by the way, there's just a few things to discuss going on in the Iowa basketball program as well as spring football. So in case you hadn't heard yet, CJ Fredrick is entering the transfer portal. So we'll talk Iowa Hawkeye men's basketball today with David Eickholt here to close out the show. But that being said, I've located my buddy Joel Tice. It's Tice time. Joel Tice with Tice Automotive Family. And Joel, first and foremost, I got to say thanks for joining us. And secondly, I love the black and gold Tice hat. Very nice, my friend. How you doing?
Good. Good. How about yourself?
All is well here, thank you, and glad to hear you're doing well. It's a busy time for all of us, but what I really wanted to highlight, Joel, is that on this show, Hawkeyed, we're going to be bringing in more philanthropy, community-type service, and being involved in the community, which you and Joe Mershman, I love working with you guys, and Mershman Seeds and Tice Automotive Family because of that involvement and philanthropy. And we're going to be highlighting and featuring families and individuals in children's organizations, primarily with children's cancer, pediatric cancer. A lot of great inspiring stories out there with very unfortunate circumstances these people are championing through their lives and their families, and it affects everybody in the community. And I want you to talk just a little bit about why you get involved so much in scholarships and funding and helping out the community, because that's not all businesses do that, and it's great to see that you do that.
Well, we've been very fortunate. I mean, really blessed in our success over the years, and it's just something we believe in giving back with whether it's just a local cancer benefit or the local spaghetti supper, our scholarship program at the high school at Bent Community. We just want to give back because we've been so blessed and we are able to do it and we're happy to do it. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's the nice thing is when you talk about community and you see kids going up the ranks with your kids playing sports, as you mentioned, in and around the Cedar Rapids area and travel ball, and how much fun that is for your kids and family and how fortunate we all are. And I got to mention this to you as we talk about charitable endeavors and community service, but it is great to see that the economy, the world, people are staying healthy and you're able to get back out, and that's really affected you and had a lot of business coming your way online and in person. And with the weather and getting better now, that's great to see and hear, isn't it, Joel?
Oh, yeah, no, everybody's getting out there, kind of all the pent-up demand of the last year, and, people haven't been able to go out and spend money like they normally would on vacations and those kinds of things. So they're apparently saving it up to buy cars right now. So
yeah,
good for us.
And that's what you said. Inventory is down right now, so you got to replenish that and get cars available for folks. So Joel, it's always great catching up with you here at Tice Time with Joel Tice, Tice Automotive Family. Thank you so much, my friend, and thanks for being involved in the show. And looking forward to catching up with you in a couple weeks.
All right, thanks, Dave.
That's my pleasure, and thank you. Thanks again to Joel Tice. This is Dave O'Hara with Hawkeye. We'll be back with more in just a few moments.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Automotive Family. We're living through some of the most interesting and challenging times many of us have ever seen. Knowing who you can rely on is more important than ever. Many of us turn to our families to get us through, and the same holds true here. From our fair upfront pricing to exceptional service after the sale, we truly want to exceed your expectations. So give us a call or stop by and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. As you can see on the screen, I got my buddy Austin Martin, starting catcher with the Iowa Hawkeyes, and what a story he has. We're going to talk about the Iowa Hawkeye baseball team. You've heard me talk about it for the last couple of weeks, and I told you I was going to talk about it. So here we go. Austin's going to join us here and talk a little Heller ball with Hawkeye baseball and all the things going on in and around the Hawkeye baseball world, but also with Austin Martin. So first of all, Austin, thank you so much for joining me. And secondly, if you would, show the viewers and listeners, or show the viewers where you're at right now. You truly are at practice, aren't you?
Yeah, actually coming right from practice. So I'll go ahead and flip my camera here, and there's the field. I'm sitting up in the press box right now. So
there it is, Dwayne Banks Field. I love it. So let's do this. Let's get into it right away. You guys are on a heater. 7 of your last 8. You won a game with Rutgers this last weekend where you were down to your last out. Rutgers first baseman drops a pop-up with 2 outs. You guys go on a 7-run scoring binge. And then you end up losing a heartbreaker on Sunday, 8-7. But 7 of your last 8, you're on a 7-game win streak. You kind of stumbled out of the blocks. You're going into a big weekend series against Maryland and then Northwestern into early next week at Dwayne Banks Field there. So again, viewers and listeners, if you want to check out HawkeyeSports.com for any updates, postponements, cancellations, reschedules, or ticket information, please do that. You see Austin's information at the bottom of the screen earlier via social media, mine as well. So Austin, let's do this. Let's have you get into that stumbling out of the blocks. You and I had a conversation yesterday off air, and how you guys righted your course for right now in this season, please.
Yeah, I think right off the bat, I guess we were kind of warned right off the bat that our schedule was a little bit tough coming out of the blocks, like you said, but that wasn't an excuse for us kind of putting up the numbers or putting up the stats that we were putting up as far as the team goes. And I think we just all bought in together and realized that this isn't the season that we want to have. And we kind of just had a mutual agreement. This is not how we're spending the 2021 season. We're going to flip this thing around right now and stick with our process, stick with the things that we train with all season. And we're really going to show our true colors down the midway of the season and also the straightaway back end. So
I love it. I tell you, it's been fun to watch. You've been on Big Ten Network a couple of times. You're going to be on again upcoming. Talk about some of the guys that have been key cogs in this wheel. And I'm holding your feet to the fire because you know, Austin, if you start mentioning names, you're going to drop a few off. But apologies to those guys in advance, but I'm going to leave that up to you. So talk about, Coach Heller and how he kind of rallied you guys. But it sounds like you guys kind of rallied around your leadership. You're a senior, some of the other guys. But talk about some of the big performances you've had as a team, please.
Yeah, no, I think our pitching staff has been really good all year, which has been huge for us. And then our bats were slow coming out of the gate. But it was kind of one of those things that when our pitchers were clicking, hitters weren't. And when our hitters were clicking, pitchers weren't. And then finally, we've been clicking on all cylinders. So it's felt good to play the baseball that we know we're capable of playing. And like Coach Heller always preaches, just stick to our process. Results don't matter. Results don't matter. The only thing that matters is your process, and that's really what we bought into. And just showing up to practice like we're doing today, just getting better with the few hours that we have together, and just really translating that into the weekend.
I love it. I can hear batted baseballs in the background, the ping of that bat. And again, you showed us the view of Dwayne Banks Field where you're recording this in the press box just before practice and after batting practice. But you've had some monumental home runs, big grand slam. It was on the Big Ten Network. You're, as a team, individuals. Again, you talked about some pitching. Do you want to mention a few names of some of the big performances, or are you afraid to get in trouble to leave some off? Go ahead, mention a few.
Yeah. I think like Trent Wallace has been outstanding this year. All of our starters have Trenton Wallace, Drew Irvine, Cam Bauman's been really good, Duncan Davitt. On the back end, we have Trace Hoffman, Dylan Nedved, Grant Leonard's been really effective as well. Probst has thrown well. Literally everybody. I can't think of one name that's thrown poorly. And then on the offensive side of it, Ben Norman's had a really good year. Peyton Williams as well, and a few others. I know I'm going to miss some, but I'll probably get some crap for that after this. But yeah, that's beside the point. But yeah, those are some names that really stick out to me.
That's fantastic. And yeah, you know you will, and that's baseball, and that's the dugout. Let it happen. But yeah, I love in the post-game interviews, a lot of your teammates hold bats up like it's an extended microphone, and you guys are having a lot of fun. I can see the smile on your face of the success makes it that much more fun, too, when you're winning games. But let's do this. You and I had a great conversation last year on radio when you joined me on my radio show and talked about the journey once the season, the rug was pulled out from you guys, like the rest of college sports and professional sports when the pandemic hit last March. But before I get into that, I also want to check in on the health of your brother Owen, and you're a Southeast Iowa or Southeast Polk high school grad, and then you went to SCC, Southeastern Community College, with a former Iowa Hawkeye pitcher, and you're my mutual buddy Justin Schulte. And so talk about that, if you would, about your brother Owen, if you could, and then we'll transition into your decision last year about coming back. And your folks were on vacation, and what a chaotic time that was. And man, you came out the better side of it. So let's talk about your brother Owen first, please, Austin.
Yeah, no, back in 2018, for those that don't know, he was hit by a car while riding his bicycle and suffered some brain trauma and a lot of other severe injuries. And quite frankly, we didn't know if he was going to come out of it alive or not. It was a really lonely feeling as far as my family goes. We didn't really know what to expect. So as far as what we were told by doctors and stuff, we were just hoping for the best, whatever that may be. But he's made a very good recovery, actually, and we're super proud of him for everything he's done as far as rehab and stuff like that. But he's talking again, he's walking, he's able to live his everyday life, how for the most part how it would have been before. He still has his everyday struggles, but our family's able to help him through those, and he's a really determined kid, and yeah, we're super proud of him.
That is awesome. Hashtag Owen Strong. Also, hashtag Hellerball, Hellerball. Rick Heller, a Southeast Iowa native, Ottumwa area, then played and coached at Upper Iowa and Fayette and then Indiana State and been at Iowa, and what a transformation he's made in his years at Iowa. But so, Austin, let's get to your story then in about 4 or 5 minutes that we have left with you for this interview. And I got to get you back to practice, so I don't want to get you in trouble that way either. But what a decision you had to make last year when the pandemic hit. Your parents were on vacation with your brother, and so you were kind of on your own, and all this happened. So take us through that, if you would, what your decision-making process was to come back for this year. You had a job, you had your education, there were things you could do. Take us through that process, if you would, please.
Yeah, no, I think it was really weird, and it caught everyone off guard. It was, you said it earlier in the interview, it was literally like the rug was pulled out from underneath us, and we were kind of just told, first, we were supposed to take off for California, and I was actually hurt with a concussion, so I wasn't traveling anyway. So I was a little bit out of it, and we got told that our season had been suspended, and we weren't going to take that trip to California. And then 2 weeks down the road, we were going to go ahead and reevaluate. And then within 3 hours, actually, it was probably 2 to 3 hours after, we got a call back to return to our auditorium down in our baseball facility, and they said that our season had just been wiped out. We won't be playing the rest of the year. So it was unlike anything I've really experienced ever in my entire life. It was pretty emotional. A lot of our guys were pretty upset about it. Actually, all of our guys were. And then there were, quite frankly, there were a lot of guys that had to face some real life decisions with employment. They were graduating, whether it was worth coming back and paying the extra money for education, just because we didn't know if scholarships were going to be on the table. So certain stuff like that, it made the decision really hard. But a lot of the older guys, we have everybody, all of our older guys are back except for 2. Which is Grant Judkins. He got drafted last year, and then also Justin Jenkins, which he decided to take a job and kind of start his life, which I respect him entirely for what his decision was. But the rest of our older guys, we kind of rallied around each other. We were talking all summer, and we were talking in close confines with our coaches and whatever it was, just to kind of get all the information that we needed in order to make a really good decision on our behalf. And we just kind of all agreed, like, listen, we didn't get a full season, and we didn't get a chance to fulfill what we wanted to fulfill as a program. So let's just go ahead and give this thing one last go around. And we got our living arrangements figured out, and buddies and all that stuff. So yeah, we're all back.
Man, you are making this Iowa proud, Hawkeye proud. What a year you guys are having. And for you, again, wrestling with decisions, and those that may have had to make decisions, as you mentioned, you can't begrudge them for that. But I will say this to you in our last couple of minutes here that we have with you, and get you back to practice. One more time, if you don't mind, spin that camera on and show us the view of Duane Bank Stadium, if you don't mind, please, Austin.
There she is. Ah,
look at that. I tell you, cannot wait. Again, go to HawkeyeSports.com. The Hawks got a big weekend series against Maryland and then Northwestern late this weekend into early next week. Again, you can check it out, HawkeyeSports.com. This airs on Friday night. We're recording it on Tuesday afternoon. So want to talk a little Hawkeye baseball with you. So let's do this, Austin, rolling into the end of the year, and I'd like to have you back one more time after the season to kind of talk about your future and where everybody's going and what's going to be happening with Hellerball and Iowa baseball. But I got to tell you, when you take a look at, fans are able to come back a little bit. The way the season was last year, as we both talked about how the rug was yanked out, and you guys are having it this year. Is it more fun in a weird kind of way? Is this more fun and more appreciation for you guys as players and for you? Or is it a normal season? I got to believe this is a little bit more fun and better appreciated by you guys, isn't it?
Yeah, no, especially after last year, we didn't get any warning. It was just gone. So here when we were finally able to get on the field again, we were all really appreciative just to be able to be sharing the same locker room as a team, be sharing meals together, living with our teammates, whatever it may be. We were just happy to be back on the field. And then the little to no amount of fans that we're allowed to have in the stadium during our games, depending on where we're playing, we're super appreciative. And they actually opened up last weekend to 50% capacity at Duane Bank. So it felt like a million people compared to what we've been playing in front of all. But it was good to see some familiar faces in the stands for sure.
That is awesome. And again, you can check out all his social media. Find Austin at Austin Martin. And again, HawkeyeSports.com. This is Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara, at DaveO'HaraSports.com if you missed it on TV. Austin, I can't even begin to say thank you enough. Get back to practice. I don't want to get you in trouble, but we'll catch up with you after the season. All the best to you and the rest of the Hawkeyes throughout this baseball season. Thank you again, and look forward to catching up with you soon, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Dave. Have a good one.
My pleasure, and thank you. For Austin Martin, this is Dave O'Hara. He's the starting catcher for the Iowa Hawkeyes. With Hawkeyed with me, we'll be back with more in 1 minute.
Farming makes a positive difference in my life. I love to take care of the yards and the flowers in the garden, but I also like the opportunity that I have now that I can get in the combine and help when they need that. During the fall, one of the main things that I take care of is hauling grain to the elevator or hauling it here onto the farm and getting it in the bins. Women in general just have more opportunities that they can show their strengths today on the farm.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. You can see on the screen my buddy David Eickholt joining us, the Hawkeye Insider. All his information on the bottom of the screen. Cannot wait to talk to David today, as we usually look forward to talking to David as he's sitting there smiling and shaking his head. Gee, David, what are we going to talk about today? But hey, we record this on Tuesday afternoon. It airs on Friday nights, and then, of course, online afterwards. It airs on TV Friday nights and afterwards online, DaveO'HaraSports.com. But well, David, let's get to it right away. We had spring football with the Hawkeyes to talk about. We just did an interview I did with Austin Martin, the starting catcher with the Iowa Hawkeye Baseball team, talking Heller ball. A lot of cool stuff happening in and around Hawkeye sports. We talked about wrestling the last couple of weeks, national championship, Caitlin Clark with Bluter's Bunch in women's basketball. What else is oh, that's right. We had the spring game. People are trying to invent a quarterback controversy. But beside all that, CJ Fredrick, it was announced on Monday night, is transferring and entering the transfer portal from the University of Iowa. I'm going to stop there. I've talked enough, and I'm going to let you fill in the blanks.
Yeah, Dave, it's a very, I know rumors surfaced about CJ's, quote unquote departure, even as much as a month ago during the season. And I want to clear this up. I don't think that's entirely fair to CJ, because if he was, halfway out the door at that point, would he really have played on that foot injury for the past 2 months this season? That just doesn't strike me as, you can't really connect the dots there. So I think that people should dismiss that. But, there's no way to sugarcoat, Dave. It's a bad loss for Iowa next year. CJ, I thought before last season, I said, look, this is a kid that could average 18 points a game this upcoming season, as in 2021, and be a first-team all Big Ten caliber guy. And with his departure, not a lot of shooting on this team. But I do think people should be able to take a step back, look at the totality of just everything and how it sort of came about. A point that I feel like a lot of people are overlooking, Dave, is think about how many people of his friends are not on the team anymore. Think about who he came in with. Yeah, Connor McCaffrey's still there. Jack Nungy, who he's close to, is going to Xavier. You look at Jordan Bohannon. I don't think Jordan Bohannon's coming back. I'd be surprised if he did. I think Joe Wieskamp's going to the NBA. That's not announced, not official. That's his roommate. I think Joe Wieskamp's gone. Luka Garza's gone. I mean, a lot of guys he was close with are gone, and this team right now is looking at best maybe a bubble team until they bring in some transfers. And CJ being one of the best shooters in the country, Dave, I think that he's going to be incredibly highly touted in the transfer portal, and I don't think people realize how highly touted he's going to be. 47% from three, a plug and play in any offensive system. So I think he's going to get a lot of exposure there. But, again, Dave, it's a very bad loss to the University of Iowa going in next year. And Fran McCaffrey better start loving that transfer portal, because it's adapt or die at this point.
Yeah, that's where I'm going next with this. And again, to mention how well CJ shoots it and a good leader, but he was a great perimeter defender, one of Iowa's best perimeter defenders. And, really for you and me and to talk to other people in and around basketball, I've had other coaches on this show ask me off the air. I don't want to say it was the worst kept secret in Iowa basketball, but a lot of people were expecting this announcement for CJ to transfer. And now that has happened, that's where I'm going next with you. Is Fran McCaffrey going to love the transfer portal? I mean, where do we plug and play? Where do we get some guys? I mean, I know Riley Mulvey is going to be the big guy coming in, and he, as you mentioned last week, he expedited his process, and now he's going to be at Iowa next year ready to go as a freshman. But where are they going on the perimeter? Do you have any insight of where they may go in the transfer portal?
Yeah, obviously Iowa's still after another big man, because Riley Mulvey's not going to start. But I did say, I think I said this last week, I did put in an article, I think he's going to be a 10 to 15 minute guy next year. I think he's going to be Iowa's best rim protector since Adam Woodbury, except he's going to be more of a shot blocker than Adam Woodbury was. No disrespect to what Woodbury did on the defensive end during his career. But Iowa's still after Philippe Rebraca, the North Dakota transfer. I believe it's down to Iowa, Minnesota. I expect him to come to a decision soon. Iowa did have a Zoom meeting with him on Sunday, and from all indications, it went well. I know they're keeping an eye on a guy named EJ Onu, and then look, Iowa needs a shooter. I think they need two shooters, because who's the best three-point shooter right now on the team, Dave? Keegan Murray, Patrick McCaffrey. No disrespect, they flashed last year, but there wasn't a lot of consistency with that. So Iowa needs to bring in one, if not two shooters. And there's 3 open scholarships. I'm very interested to see where Fran goes, if he wants 2 big guys or 2 shooters. But I think they need 1 big guy, and I think they got to bring in 2 shooters just to be able to space the floor, because Dave, Peyton Sanford out of Hawkeyed might be the best shooter on Iowa's team, and he's not even on campus yet.
Yeah, that's the thing. Just won a state title, as you mentioned, in Hawkeye, and going to be incoming as a freshman. So a couple of different thoughts here. You know, Jordan Bohannon, as you mentioned, could come back, especially if name, image, and likeness, depending how that shakes out later on this year legislatively. But he could come back because this year didn't count for anybody. Obviously, Luka's not coming back. Do you think Joe Wieskamp, I know he entered his name into the draft portal and doesn't have to declare, doesn't affect his eligibility until later on this spring, but your heart of hearts, do you think Wieskamp is gone?
I think Wieskamp's gone. Again, that's nothing from what I'm hearing.
Right. You're not confirming, right?
How it translates to the NBA. How it translates to the NBA, I just don't know what more he has to gain for his draft stock and his future by coming back to Iowa. I know some people might say, oh, he can increase his strength. He can increase, his contact, ability to finish at the hoop while taking contact. Well, he can do that in the NBA too, in a G League or on another team. And that's what people don't really take into account. And keep in mind, he has his degree. He's getting his degree this summer in finance in 3 years. So incredible accomplishment there. So it's not like he's coming back for that. And I believe Joe, if he came back and then elected to go to next year's NBA draft, he's 23. Not a lot of teams are going to be taking a lot of chances on a 23-year-old wing. They're going to be going younger and younger. You look at, there's a reason why guys like Zach LaVine, who didn't do much in his college career, but he had all the athleticism, had all the tools in the world. Now we see what he is, obviously, with the Bulls, but they like those younger prospects that flash potential more than anything else.
Right. No, and to your point, we're not confirming, saying, I just was asking you your opinion, and I appreciate you talking about Joe Wieskamp that way. And you mentioned Keegan Murray a couple times. He's already coming out for next year on draft boards. He's not coming out of college, but he is being listed on mock draft boards for next NBA draft next year in 2022, where they have him, I think you told me off the air, they have him going 23rd in the first round to the Lakers if things play out the way they are. So he's getting pre-draft buzz already going into his sophomore year. That's very impressive. And I got to give you some props. I always call James Vandenberg Nostradamus. You're the Nostradamus when it comes to Keegan Murray, because you've been beating his drum the whole time, David.
No, I appreciate that. But yeah, you look at just the skill set, the way his athletics, he's a lot more athletic than I thought he was when he got to Iowa. He's shown flashes. He's not afraid to finish strong at the hoop. He's not afraid to throw down over some guys. His offensive rebounding, especially off the free throw line, was as impressive as I've seen anybody across college basketball. I think he needs to stay out of foul trouble. He needs to be able to continue to develop that perimeter shot, get a little bit stronger, but I think he's a legitimate first-round pick. The size, the versatility, the skill set, his ability to block shots as well. I mean, his game is molded for the NBA. I mean, it's kind of weird to say his ceiling might be higher as a pro player than a college player, because his college ceiling is already pretty dang high. But you look at his skill set and his upside, I think that's good. I think he's probably the best NBA prospect in the Fran McCaffrey era, at least. Yeah.
It's interesting, David. I thought we would talk 8 minutes on Hawkeye Spring Football and then talk a couple minutes about Hawkeye basketball and other things in and around either men's basketball, women's basketball, and baseball, like we mentioned, having Austin Martin on, the starting catcher for the Hawkeyes, the segment before you. But we had to give due time to CJ Fredrick transferring or entering the transfer portal and all that's going around in the Iowa men's basketball program. But let's get to spring football. The spring practice that you saw last week, you were back in Kinnick Stadium. What a welcome return that had to be for you and some of the other media and a few fans. One more practice next Saturday, May 1st, and that'll be the end for spring ball this year. But it'll be available to some fans and media again. Talk about last week for us. Everybody's trying to create a quarterback controversy. Not everybody, but naysayers are trying to create, Padilla looked good. He got a lot of time. What happened to Spencer? He got dinged up a little bit. How's Deuce Hogan looking? So once again, David, I lay that at your feet. Is there a quarterback controversy? I know the answer to this, but let's hear your response, please.
All right, let me get my gas can so I can pour it all over the fire that I'm about to blaze.
I got the match right here for you, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll say this. I really thought that all 3 quarterbacks were pretty similar level. I did. And again, it's one practice out of 9, and that's what I need to continue to kind of say to people. I think they all three showed some different things. I think Deuce Hogan's scrambling ability, which surprised me, and his decision-making was impressive. Alex Padilla had probably the most crisp on the ball. The way he led the offense, he was really fast, moving out of the pocket, delivering some strikes. Spencer Petras, I thought, had a really rocky start, really ended the practice strong. Had 4 straight completions and a 2-minute drill before overthrowing on an out route, which isn't the worst thing in the world. If you overthrow an out route, it's going out of bounds, so nobody's going to be able to intercept it. So it wasn't the worst throw there. But again, Spencer's experience and leadership make him the clear front runner at this point. But I think there's a legitimate battle for backup quarterback. And if Padilla and Hogan continue to show strides and Petras doesn't show that consistency or that next level that they want to see him take, summer's a long time. Yeah. Fall's a long time. Fall camp's a long time. Who knows what's going to happen? But I think right now it's safe to say Spencer Petras will be the starting quarterback. But again, I was very impressed with Hogan and Padilla and the way they developed.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more with you. And I've talked to James Vandenberg, as you saw in the program last week, viewers and listeners, and heard. James Vandenberg joined me, former Hawkeye quarterback, and I talked to him after, leading into that spring practice, open spring practice, and he said the same thing you said, David, that, it's ones are going to get mixed up right now. The quarterbacks are going to take reps with the ones anyway with the first team during spring and some summer, because he said once the season gets rolling, they really don't get a lot of reps as backups, and James knows that, playing behind Ricky Stanzi. So I thought he spoke great volumes of that, as did you right now. Hey, I want to let you know, David, but there are also the viewers and listeners, that Marvin McNutt's going to join us later on, former Hawkeye receiver, in weeks upcoming, as is Jordan Canzeri, former Hawkeye running back. They're going to give us their take on spring ball going into the fall and kind of our where are they now with the former Hawkeye greats. So looking forward to catching up with them. And David, my friend, as always, looking forward to catching up with you next week. You always put a big grin on my face, because I always joke about how my phone blows up all the time. But man, I got to know, yours has been just going crazy since CJ Fredrick's entering the transfer portal, with all the things you have going on. Thanks so much for taking some time out for us, as always, and look forward to catching up with you next week. He's the Hawkeye Insider, David Eickholt. Thanks, buddy.
Hey, thanks, Dave. Really quick, I got to mention Hawkeye soccer, the most improbable NCAA tournament appearance.
Yes.
After winning 4 straight games, 2-8, going 4 straight in the Big Ten tournament. Now we'll play Camels in the NCAA tournament. I'm
glad you mentioned it. Yes, first Iowa Hawkeye women's soccer, first the Big Ten championship. Glad you got that in there. Great stuff, as always. Got us covered from A to Z with Hawkeye Sports. Thanks, David.
Thanks, Dave.
My pleasure, as always. For David Eickholt and Austin Martin and Joel Tice, and to you, the viewers and listeners, thanks for tuning in. Please do stay tuned just for a second for the rolling credits at the end of the show to give our advertisers and sponsors and supporters of this show the respect in your business that they deserve, and greatly appreciate that. Also, thanks for making us #1 in late night on Fox 28, KFXA, and also we're going to be going statewide with the show, and thanks for your viewership on that. That'll be soon upcoming this spring, so a lot of exciting things happening for us, and again, stay tuned for that guest list, again, as I mentioned. So looking forward to talking to you next week. For Hawkeye, I'm Dave O'Hara. That's all from me. Thanks, all of you.